My ex and I have been going strong for 7 months. We've had spats over small stuff, usually just drama with his child's mother. I don't have kids because she was always texting him and begging for him back, but he swore he didn't want to be with her. He wanted to be with me. We had plans to rent somewhere together in the next few months. He told me he wanted to marry me, that I was the love of his life, and that he hasn't been this happy or felt connected with someone in years. He said he was so scared I was going to leave him, and I always assured him I wouldn't, that I was in love with him as much as he claimed he was with me. And I truly do love him so much. The connection and conversations we could have are unlike anything I've had with anyone else. To cut the story short, a few days ago everything was fine. He spent the night at my house. We got up for work the next morning and kissed, telling each other we loved one another. We texted all morning while we were at our jobs. He said he missed me so much. He does this every day, and we were planning a date to go out to eat this weekend, and how excited we both were. However, my girlfriend and I bought tickets to go to a concert together in 2 weeks for a little girls' trip. We started arguing about this over text, and he began blowing up and spazzing on me, saying if I go, he and I are done. He doesn't trust me going down there, that I'll hook up with some guy, that I want to act single when I'm not. I'm countering all this by saying I'm not going to cheat on him. I love him too much. It's just a concert with my girlfriend. At this point, he's super mad and starts exploding further, saying that he doesn't like the way I treat his kids, that I always act like they annoy me. I had no idea he even felt this way because I didn't think I acted like that towards them. That he's bored of always sitting at my house with me because he likes to go out and it's driving him crazy. That we don't even feel like a real couple or family since we never go out with his kids. He gets them every other weekend. I'm shocked by all this and I'm like, why are you waiting to tell me all of this now? I thought you liked being at home with me. You said you didn't care what we did as long as you were spending time with me. You told me that your kids really liked me and were always excited to come to my house, so I didn't think I acted funny towards them. I don't understand how we don't feel like a real couple. The next day he texts me saying that he doesn't think he's ready to be in a relationship. He said he has trust issues to resolve and that he gets so angry he blows up, and he doesn't want to treat me that way because it's not fair. He wants to be alone for a while. I start panicking and saying, okay, but we can work through this. I just didn't know you felt that way about anything. I'm bargaining, saying it was just a stupid argument and that yes, he hurt my feelings, but we can work through these issues. He tells me that he's too controlling and I should live my life. I deserve someone who can provide the correct love for me because it's not him. And he wants me to pack his clothes up and leave them on my porch so he can pick them up without having to see me because he can't handle seeing me this hurt. He blocked me on everything afterward. I'm just at a loss for words about any of it. I thought everything was perfectly fine. 1 minute, we're planning what to wear on a date this weekend, and the next minute I'm being dumped and having to pack his clothes from my house. My heart is broken. It hurts so badly. The way he switched from being so in love with me 1 minute to acting like he couldn't even stand me is horrifying. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He was looking for an excuse to break up with you. He's probably going back to his ex. On the plus side, you are done with what would be crazy drama for the rest of your life with him. Right now, you are young and single. You really need to take this precious time to just enjoy being young, not embroiled in this situation. You won't get this time back and the years go by too fast. I wish you all the best. Comment 2. He was love-bombing you and then flipped into being controlling and then acting self-aware as if he was doing something good for you. This guy is a narcissist. Run. He'll be back in a week or two, acting like everything can be perfect again. I've been on that roller coaster. It takes over your life. Save yourself a lot of heartache, block him everywhere, and don't look back. Now for the update. I'm sitting in my car, parked outside my work, trying to get the energy to actually go in. It's been 2 days since the breakup. 2 days of feeling like I've been run over by a bus and then the bus backed up just to make sure I was really done for. I can barely focus on anything. My mind keeps going back to how, in one conversation, I went from planning a future with this guy to packing up his stuff because he can't handle a relationship. My phone vibrates and snaps me out of my daze. It's a message from my coworker about a local food festival happening this weekend. She knows how much I love food, especially when it's fresh and not cooked by me. She thinks it would be good for me to get out and do something, anything, just to distract myself from what feels like a never-ending nightmare. The message makes me realize how alone I've been feeling, so I decide to go to the food festival. I need some good food and hopefully some good company. Saturday comes and I pull up to this food festival. It's packed with people, families, couples, all enjoying the day. I feel like I'm in a movie where everyone is having the time of their lives and I'm just the sad character in the background. As I'm wandering around, trying to figure out what I want to eat first, I run into Mark, my ex's best friend. Mark looks just as surprised to see me as I am to see him. He mentions that he heard about the breakup and is really surprised. I mean, who wouldn't be? One minute everything is great and the next minute you're getting dumped over text. Mark starts talking about how my ex has been acting distant lately. I'm just surprised that anyone is surprised. I mean, this is a guy who just up and left me 2 days ago. Mark casually mentions a recent family gathering where my ex seemed off. This gets me curious, so I ask him what he means. I remember my ex talking about a family trip he was planning. I wonder if this gathering was related to that. Mark says my ex was unusually quiet during the whole event, not like the guy I met and fell in love with. The guy who was always so full of life, so happy. This guy was someone I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. My thoughts are interrupted when I bump into my ex's sister, Lisa, at a food stall. She looks concerned and asks how I've been handling things. I give her a brief summary of the breakup, trying to keep it light. No point in bringing her down too, right? She tells me my ex has been struggling with some personal issues. My interest is piqued again, but before I can ask more, Lisa mentions a family dinner coming up. She asks if I want to join them, and I immediately say yes. I think being around his family will help me make sense of what's going on with him. After a bit of back and forth texting, Lisa confirms that I can join them for the family dinner. The next few days are spent preparing myself for this dinner. I want to look good, but also casual enough that they don't think I've been planning this for weeks. The dinner finally comes, and the atmosphere is tense. My ex avoids eye contact with me, which is honestly a relief because I don't want to have to look at him either. I can't help but notice how his kids are confused and distant with him. They used to run into his arms when he came home from work, and now they're treating him like a stranger. They ask me if I'll come to their next soccer game, and I can see how excited they are for my answer. Before I can say anything, my ex snaps at them, telling them not to put me on the spot. I can feel the tension in the air. It's like a thick blanket that just won't lift. After dinner, I step outside to take a breather and gather my thoughts. I overhear my ex talking to a family member about feeling overwhelmed. It's revealed that he's involved in a new job that's causing him a lot of stress. I go back inside to find the kids playing a game and my ex is nowhere to be found. The family dynamics at the table feel strained. A family member mentions that my ex has been keeping secrets from them. I ask Lisa if she knows what the secrets are, and she hints that it involves financial issues and potential job loss. The dinner wraps up, and my ex finally approaches me to say goodbye. He looks so tired, and he avoids discussing anything personal. A few days later, I learn from Mark that my ex is moving away for this new job. I can't help but feel like I've been kicked in the gut. He responds to my message with a short note, saying it's for the best. Edit. After I agreed to stay friends with my ex, I quickly realized it wasn't going to work. Seeing his posts about his new life and job, while I was still reeling from the breakup, was too much. I ended up unfollowing him on everything, and he soon did the same. It was hard to keep up the facade of friendship when I felt so heartbroken. I eventually found out that the new job wasn't even permanent. It was a temporary position he had taken to support his family's business while they found a replacement. The family was shocked when they found out he was moving away, especially after they had just helped him get this temporary job. It left us all feeling confused and hurt, but we eventually moved on. Am I the idiot for calling out my boyfriend's financial betrayal in front of his friends? My boyfriend, who is 31 years old, and I, who am 29 years old, have been together for nearly 2 years. We moved into our own place in April, but in the 6 months that we have lived here, he has only paid his part of the utility bills and internet twice. The last time he helped was in July. He does pay his part of the rent on time every month, just for reference. We both work full-time and make about the same amount of money. Recently, he told me that he was paying his mother's bills. For a little backstory about him, he is the only child and his mom is widowed. His mom wasn't living here locally for years until about 7 years ago when she moved back. My boyfriend and his mom agreed to live together temporarily until they both got back on their feet, but he offered to pay all her bills since she was only temporarily going to stay in town. This was 7 years ago. His mom ended up living with him full-time, and he was still paying all of her bills when we started dating. He told me that he spoils her and that she relies on him financially because he feels bad for her. At the time, he recognized that he couldn't keep paying her bills and his own, especially since his mom works full-time and, according to him, is constantly wasting her money on buying plane tickets to take 3-day trips to other countries. Fast forward to the beginning of this year, and we start talking about moving in together into our own place without his mom. A big argument breaks out because his mom needed help financially, and he said he was going to help her pay her bills the first month to help her out since she'd be on her own. I talked to him about this and asked him if it was going to continue after we lived together, and he said no. He himself said he wouldn't be able to continue paying her bills when she works, and how he couldn't put his life on pause for her any longer. Last week, he briefly mentioned his frustration at his mom spending all her money and then using money to take an international flight to another country for 3 days. He was frustrated at her poor money management skills and then mentioned that he was still paying her bills because she keeps getting behind on them. When I brought this up, he said that I shouldn't have a problem with it because it's his own money that he's using to pay his mom's bills. And while I'd agree that it's his money, what bothers me is that he's not doing his part in our relationship. He apologized and said it wouldn't happen again, but I'm not feeling convinced when he said he'd help out in the previous months and never does. On top of it, when we moved in, I paid for most of the deposit and the washer and dryer set. He said he'd pay half and still to this day hasn't. He also stopped taking me out on dates because he said he couldn't afford it. I'm feeling used and like I'm dating a mama's boy who will always prioritize his mom over his partner. Now for an update. I had a conversation with him about all of the issues we've been having, and all he could say was that I'm making it too big of a deal and that I shouldn't have an issue paying for everything when he's been paying everything on his own and for his mom's, and that he couldn't understand why I'm so against him helping out his mom. When I tried explaining that the issue is that for one he lied, and another that he's been letting me deal with all the financial burden, he just said he was sorry I felt that way. When I brought up not being prioritized, he simply told me that it's not a competition. We are supposed to talk more after work, but I'm so disgusted by his response and how he doesn't seem to care how hurtful this is. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Oh my goodness, are you dating my ex? Seriously, his mother was a widow who was terrible at managing money. And he moved into my place and refused to pay bills because I would be paying them anyway if he wasn't there, and he wasn't gaining any equity in my home. Girl, you need to run now. Cut your losses. I am you 10 years from now, and I can tell you he won't change. Do not waste your early 30s on this guy. The day I broke up with my ex, I felt like I could run a marathon. Please, please learn from my mistake. Comment 2. Believe actions, not words. You're funding his mother's trips and bills. She's never going to stop overspending as long as he enables her, and you may need to do what you have to in order to move into a cheaper place of your own once the lease is up. It's not like something happened that was beyond the control of him or his mother. She is choosing to waste money. You're not being unreasonable by expecting him to keep his word. Now for the update. 1 week after that whole fight with my BF about his finances, I'm still pretty mad. I mean, we talked about it, but he brushed me off and didn't even seem to care about my feelings. So I figured some time away would do me good, right? I went to my parents' house for a family dinner. They always make me feel better. My parents love my BF, they think he's amazing, so they invited him to dinner. Ugh, like I needed that. Anyway, at dinner, my dad started talking about how he and my mom managed their finances when they were younger. Like, thanks for the reminder that I'm struggling over here, Dad. Then he joked about my BF borrowing money, and I could feel myself getting embarrassed. My BF laughed it off, but I could see the look on my dad's face. After we finished eating, my BF excused himself to take a call in the other room. I'm not crazy, so I listened in. He was talking about how his mom needed more help with her bills. Seriously? When he came back, I confronted him about it, and he acted like it was no big deal. Just more proof that he's ignoring our financial situation. That night, I had to dig deeper, so I checked our shared bank statements. I found all these transfers to his mom's account for bills and personal stuff. Unbelievable. The next day, I borrowed my mom's car and went to his mom's house, pretending I was just visiting. She was surprised to see me, and we chatted for a bit. I casually asked her about the bills my BF's been paying. She said she was struggling, but didn't mention any extra help. I noticed a bunch of unopened bills on the table, so I discreetly took some pics. I left knowing I had what I needed for my next step. Back home, I made this spreadsheet comparing our expenses to what he sends to his mom. Then I invited my BF to dinner at a local restaurant to talk about finances again. During dinner, I presented the spreadsheet. The facts were right there in front of him. He got all defensive, saying he's in control of his finances, and dismissed my concerns. So, I mentioned my visit to his mom and the unopened bills. His face went pale, and I knew he realized he's been caught in a lie. I pushed him further, asking why he's still supporting her when we can't even make ends meet. He stammered, acting like it was no big deal, and that he just wanted to help his mom. I stood up, saying I couldn't be with someone who prioritizes their mother over their partner. I paid for dinner and left him sitting there with the check, feeling all sorts of smug. The next day, he texted me, begging to talk. I ignored it, but I did send a screenshot of the bank statement to my best friend. She was like, "Let's plan a surprise for him." We came up with this plan to confront him publicly at his favorite bar during happy hour with his friends. On the night of the confrontation, I got there early and ordered a drink. When he walked in, I stood up and called him out in front of everyone about his financial choices. His friends looked super uncomfortable as I explained the whole situation and revealed the facts I had gathered. He tried to defend himself, but the crowd started turning against him. It was awesome. Feeling all that public scrutiny, he left in embarrassment. The next morning, he texted me to apologize, but I didn't respond. Mini update, I still haven't responded to his text. My best friend has been staying with me, and honestly, our plan worked better than I expected. I didn't think his friends would turn on him like that. They all knew what he was like, but I guess they just needed a little push to see the full picture. He did try to talk to me in person, but I avoided him. I can't believe he thought a simple apology would fix everything. My work colleagues have been really nice about the whole situation too, asking if I'm okay and offering to help if I need anything. Am I the idiot for defending my wife against my sister's toxic accusations at a family dinner? I'm 25 years old, married to my wife who is 34 years old, for 4 years now after 2 years of dating. We have 3 children together, twin boys who are 2 years old and a daughter who is 1 year old. My wife is a doctor and I'm a computer engineer working from home. The thing is, most people around me call my wife controlling, toxic, and even hurtful, even though she is not. They say our age gap is disgusting and disturbing, and that she is manipulating, controlling, gaslighting, and even harassing me. My family, friends, and even my closest friends think the same. Yes, she has a strong personality. She is quite assertive, ambitious, intelligent, authoritative, and strict. But she is also a very good mother and wife who always wants the best for our family. I'm tired of the accusations they throw at my wife without knowing her well. I am happy in my marriage, but they can't understand that. For example, my wife checks my location all the time with an AirTag in my wallet. We have a shared bank account, and she handles most of the financial decisions, such as buying new things. I don't use social media because my wife doesn't like us exposing ourselves to other people. She doesn't have one either. I don't play video games with my friends after 8 p.m. because we spend quality time as a family during those hours before our kids go to sleep. And then I spend time with my wife. I also don't go out much with my friends, so I can spend time with my kids and wife instead. Since I'm working from home and my workload isn't that much, I take care of the kids, cook, and clean most of the time. But when she is at home too, we do these things together. I just think that whoever is at home should take care of the kids and house regardless of gender. But the people around me think in the opposite way. They say she is using me by making me cook, clean, and take care of things, claiming that she is financially hurtful too by taking my money from me. They say she is controlling me by keeping me away from my friends. But in reality, we are just taking care of our family in a healthy way, and she doesn't take my money from me at all. She just makes the financial decisions for the family, such as investments, as the older, wiser, and more experienced one. I trust her to make the right decisions. She doesn't control me at all. I just prioritize my kids and wife along with her right decisions and rules, which provide a healthy environment at home. We don't even argue. We solve our problems without hiding them from each other. I've explained all of this many times, but they simply refuse to listen to me. For this reason, I'm planning to cut ties with the people around me who are trying to interfere with my relationship with my wife. I talked about this to my wife, and she said she doesn't care what they say and that I'm free to make the decision on my own. Even my mother, father, and closest friends are acting in the same way. I wouldn't want this, but I don't want my marriage to be harmed by others. But I'm also confused. Why can't they just be happy for me? Or are they really right and I'm somehow blind? I need other people's perspectives on this. Any advice would be appreciated. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She's not your wife, she's the prison warden. But if you're okay with it, who is anyone else to tell you that? If you're happy in your situation, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Just don't let your kids think that this is necessarily a standard. And you got together at 19 and 28? That's possibly troubling. Comment 2. Is your wife the only one making decisions about your family? Does she have an AirTag in her wallet? Does she message you when you go somewhere she didn't expect you to go? If you were single right now, do you think you'd choose to date a 19-year-old? Now, for the update. I got a call a week after the last post from my sister asking if I was coming to my parents' house for dinner. She kept pushing it, which made me think it was important or something. Turns out, my parents were celebrating their anniversary, and they invited my wife and me along with my siblings. So I told my wife, and she seemed a bit distracted, like scrolling through her phone and not really paying attention to me. She said she'd come, but asked if we could leave early, since the kids would need their bedtime routine. That made sense, so I said sure. Dinner was a whole different vibe. Right from the start, things felt off. My sister was making these passive-aggressive comments about how my wife was controlling, like real subtle digs, you know. My brother Jake and his wife Rachel were there too, and they just looked uncomfortable, like they didn't know what to do. My dad tried to lighten the mood by joking about my sister still being single, but she just shot back that at least she wasn't being manipulated, glancing at my wife when she said it. I noticed my wife's expression changed a bit, but she didn't say anything. She just took it. During dinner, Jake shared that he and Rachel were expecting a baby, and everyone congratulated them. That should have been a good moment, but my sister rolled her eyes and said it was easy to get pregnant when you were not under someone's thumb. I mean, come on. I tried to change the subject by asking about the family vacation plans for the summer. My mom chimed in, mentioning a location she had heard of, and my wife added that we could plan a trip together. My sister said it would be too much work for someone who couldn't handle financial decisions, looking pointedly at my wife. That was just too much. I could feel the tension rising, and I tried to defend my wife by saying we make decisions together. My sister abruptly stood up and threw her napkin on the table, saying she was done with this family dinner. I got up to follow her, but my mom insisted I stay and not make things worse. So, I stayed. My sister stormed out, and I heard her arguing with my dad in the hallway. After a few minutes, my sister came back, red-faced and fuming. She pointed at my wife, accusing her of ruining our family. My brother Jake awkwardly tried to mediate, but it only made things worse. My wife quietly said she wouldn't engage with the insults, which only fueled my sister's anger. Then, eventually, my sister yelled that she was tired of pretending we were a happy family. That was a low blow, and I didn't know where it came from. My dad tried to calm her down, but it didn't help. She stormed out of the house entirely and drove off. My brother and Rachel left shortly after, saying they had to check on her. The dinner ended awkwardly, with my mom trying to salvage the evening but failing. My wife and I packed up the kids and left without saying goodbye. That night, I got a text from my sister saying she was done with our family. That was a lot to take in. The next day, my wife and I talked about the dinner, but she seemed distant and upset. She didn't want to talk about it, and that made me worried. My sister posted on social media about toxic relationships, and it felt directed at me. I called my sister to talk about it, but she wouldn't answer. That was frustrating, to say the least. A few days later, my wife said she was going to visit her family, leaving me alone with the kids. She said she needed some time away, and I couldn't really argue with that. My wife left for a week, and I struggled with the kids. It was exhausting, but I managed. When she got back, we had a heated discussion about our family dynamics. She said she felt disrespected and didn't want to be around people who treated her like that. Ultimately, she decided to cut ties with my sister and said she wouldn't tolerate disrespect. That was a tough decision for her, and I could see it in her face. This whole situation just messed up our lives, man. To answer a few questions, my sister's outburst at dinner stemmed from her long-standing concerns about our relationship. Despite attempts to mediate, she felt unheard and resorted to public confrontation. The anniversary dinner was supposed to be a celebration, but her comments escalated tensions. My wife felt that my sister's judgments were unfair, leading her to decide to cut ties for her own well-being. My sister's social media posts were vague but seemed to be about our family issues. Her refusal to talk on the phone was her way of needing space. The situation has been difficult for everyone involved. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.